November 21st, 2022. It is 1 Central Time, and we are back to another episode of PWTB. This is the final episode before Christmas. So if you guys are celebrating Christmas or if you already are celebrating, enjoy the holidays, definitely. I'm Evan. I'm back with Jake, who held down the fort last week at the episode. Jake's, thanks for doing that. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. It was a pleasure hosting the show last week.
Awesome. Nick did a very good job too. Go out and check out last week's episode, definitely. But today we're gonna start out. We have a guest today. We have my friend Brian O'Connor. He goes by OC. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing very good. OC, I've known him for a long time. We're big White Sox fans, and we'll get to that later. We've been in plenty of group chats together. He runs a page, whitesox.orbit on Instagram. We'll link that below. Go check it out. Over 1,000 followers, keeping it real with his followers. So we got to respect that. But first, before we get to some White Sox talk, I did want to talk with OC because OC played football for D3 Elmhurst. Are you a current player or are you a former? I forgot about
Uh,
that.
I'm a former player because I have since transferred from Elmhurst to St. Xavier. I just kind of just like kind of just retired because I think it was just time for me to call it quits.
Okay. If you know, you know. That's really cool.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So how was it playing a college sport at the D3 level? Because yes, it's a next step up because you got Whitewater, you got Mount Union. There's some real powerhouse teams in D3, so it's not a rollover. Just how was the experience, first of all?
Experience, I think it was mixed, I feel, because I feel like, yeah, I had to deal with COVID, the 2020, because we played in the spring and we only played 4 games. And then one game got canceled, so it turned out to be only 3 games. So that was kind of different. And then, whatchamacallit, then 2021, I decided like last minute I was gonna go back because like the coach gave me an option. I went back. It's a different experience from high school because like instead of like from high school, we would lift after school. It would be a team lift. But then for D3, we didn't have as big of a weight room as my high school did, so we had to split up into groups and like
Really?
sometimes
That's interesting.
yeah,
Huh.
it
But you
is
went to it because he played in Illinois in 8A, which is like some of those schools like Loyola and those are almost like colleges essentially. So that's actually not surprising. But what about the fan environment, I guess? Like how is that? How would you compare that to high school?
it's not comparable. High school is for the D3 schools I played outside a couple, high school is so much better and like bigger for like especially where I come from. I went to Marist and Marist High School, like we played in like against some of these schools, like we played Lake Zurich and like that stadium was packed.
Right.
But like in D3 there are a couple schools that have good like fan bases. Like North Central is one of them. They've just won their second national championship last week, and like obviously they're going to get a draw because they're a national power right now.
Okay. So you got involved. You got involved for 2 years. All the props to that. Just to wrap up this subject, I guess, was it worth it? Because there's obviously the naysayers that will say that unless if you're D1 or maybe a really high end D2 school, doing those sports isn't usually worth it. So would you say those critics were right, or would you say they're wrong?
It's a mixed bag for me. So I feel like for me, if I would have ended up probably at like a better school for me, I probably would have stuck it out for 4 years. But for me, the 2 years was like because at Elmhurst, like they were struggling programs. They're still struggling. They're looking for a new coach again. It's been like a mixed bag ever since 2012 when they last made the playoffs because that coach since left took the Western Michigan job. Like he went places before, but he eventually got the Western Michigan job, so he was a big time coach. But but for me, it's like I didn't. I like the coach as a person, but he wasn't that good of a football coach, and it just like everyone that I would hang out with and like knew from the class below me too. A lot of people left and quit after year one. I think especially if you're going up against North Central, I kind of lost motivation because my last year of football, we played North Central. We lost that game 77-7.
Oh my
I know
gosh.
North Central is a very good team, but like being on the receiving end of a 70-point blowout is not the funnest thing in the world.
No,
So
I've been there and I played high school football, so obviously not college, but we lost 70-3 one time. And like just turning around and going back by the fans and all that, just look, you can't look them in the eye after you lose 70-3. Like, so it definitely sucks the life out of it. But it was really cool that you were involved in all that. But let's talk some White Sox now, all right? So obviously was a very disappointing year. The Tony La Russa, who I know you're a huge critic of, is gone. He's out of here. We got Pedro coming in. What are you optimistic about this next season? Pessimistic? Where are we at right now?
I want to say I'm optimistic. I like the Pedro hire. Yes, he came from the Royals, but there was also another situation with the Royals where higher ups they wanted they were a split decision. People wanted Pedro, but higher ups wanted Mike Matheny. That didn't work out, obviously. And the Royals have some have new managers. So I mean, new upper people. So they've brought in where they came from. They came from the Rays, so they brought in the Rays bench coach. So
Yeah,
White's
that real quick. That's gonna be interesting because the Royals, like is this their sign that they want to compete? Because the Tigers, obviously, they wanted to compete last year. That didn't work out. But I've always wondered because the White Sox, and I'm a White Sox fan too. I think I mentioned that. Is that yes, I think we've made some good moves this offseason. Mike Clevenger's a solid starter. I think you got with the acquisition of Andrew Benintendi, we didn't have to pay him that much. I think that's high upside too. I wish we would have done a little more, but in this division, it's not that tough. We can compete. Do you think it's going to get tougher? Maybe.
um the Guardians are still very good, and
True.
they signed Josh Bell, so they're getting better. And but like the Twins struck out on everyone besides Joey Gallo,
Oh,
and
100%. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I and Byron Buxton can't really stay healthy. The Twins, I think, are really no threat. I think the Tigers and Royals are still years away, so that leaves us with Cleveland. And I think the White Sox biggest factor is health. Like they didn't stay healthy last year.
Yeah. Yeah. We've just been unlucky, especially these. And again, there's fair criticisms. We had a hitting coach who has a terrible track record last year. We had Tony La Russa, who obviously fell apart. But injury luck, there's no doubting that we just got hammered on injuries. I'm gonna open this up. Jake, you got anything to add to the discussion? Add to OC?
I do not. It's just not hearing y'all talk, back and forth.
Definitely. Well, OC, it was nice having you on. Thanks for your perspective and come back sometime, all right?
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
No problem.